some chatting here today. We got some things to talk about. The big game that's coming up this weekend, and Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, as well as some things about the channel. Not like bad things or anything, just a little bit of background, some information, stuff like that. But anyways, if you are watching this right now and you want to chat, be my guest, it'll appear right over there, right on the side of the board. Your stuff will show up right there, and it'll stay up there for the whole chat. So we'll get right into that in just a few minutes. But first, we have to talk about some other things. Well, first, let's get started about the channel is always this. Just part of the thing that we do is always ask me anything. So whenever you want to ask me something, be it on the live stream, through Twitter, or even on the YouTube channel in the comments section, or you want to shoot me an email, just anything works. Always ask me anything. I'm open to anything. The only thing I'm not open to is solicitations. So just keep that in mind. And this channel is always this session is gonna be all about different stuff. It's every time we're gonna do things differently, and different reviews and so forth, and talking points and topics. I speak English goodly. Now, this episode was sponsored by me and water. Water. It makes the driest holes wet. Ah, that definitely dried out or wet it. Definitely got me parched. I was parched. No, I'm not parched. Whatever. Bad joke. Wrote it this morning. I knew it was gonna be bad. Did it anyways. Deal with it. So the next thing we're gonna talk about right now at the first talking part we're gonna get into the next few minutes or so is we're gonna talk about the big game. Now, the big game happens this Sunday, and as per agreements to the professional league in the United States here, we cannot use the term that talks about the game that happens on Sunday once a year. It has been trademarked by the NFL. They use that, so we can't. We can only mention it by the big game. We can't use the actual phrase. It's weird, I know, but that's just something that happens. Um, the championship game. You can call it that too. But anyways, you just can't use that phrase, the one that you know, the two-word phrase. But anyways, besides the point, we're just going to talk about a little bit. We're gonna make some, make a prediction, and then this is my prediction. Obviously, my prediction sucks, so we'll just do it anyways, just for the funsies, because I'm not gonna watch the big game. I don't have any invested interest in the big game. There's really nothing going on for me right now watching that big game. So what's the point of watching this thing? I'm just gonna be streaming anyways on Sunday, so F that. You might want to see a live stream on Sunday. We'll be playing more of Star Wars, the Old Republic, Knights of the Fallen Empire. Moving on to like maybe the later chapters, probably getting to chapter 8. I would think we'd be by chapter 8 by then, at least get the Alliance base started. Possibly doing side missions, but that's besides the point. Back to the big game. So the prediction I make is I'm predicting that the Philadelphia team will win. The only reason why I do that because one of my predictions have sucked all this year, and I really want Philadelphia to lose. So if I predict Philadelphia and they win, I win. But if they lose, I still win because I want them to lose. So I'm not a big fan of Philadelphia's team because they're in my division. My team's Washington. I really can't stand Philadelphia, and I really can't stand Dallas. So the hell with that. And not like I said, I'm just not really into it right now for football. And the big game, the halftime show, I really couldn't care less about the musical performances on the show. I and the commercials. I really can't stand that stuff anymore. They're wasting lots of money for stuff that to me just isn't in it. It doesn't have that feel anymore. You get older and things just don't start feeling the way they used to, and it just kind of the magic's gone, the feelings died. You want to move on, do something else. I mean, if it was um, Kansas City versus San Francisco, I might have watched. If it was Philadelphia versus Cincinnati, I might have watched. But it's these two teams. They both represent things I can't stand. I can't stand the fact that Kansas City is in it again because they are going to turn into the next New England, and I really don't want to see that happen again in the AFC division. And then in anyways, that I just don't care. That's just my beef with the whole thing. It's just that this big game is going to be terrible in my opinion. It's going to be a low rating game. Not a lot of people are going to watch it. Mostly people out of Kansas City and Philadelphia, but the rest of the nation just all we're watching for the commercials. Good for you. I'm not watching for the commercials. They're a waste of time. They already have the channels or the commercials on YouTube right now. You could probably pull them up on YouTube. I see them all over Reddit. Stuff going up there. I'm like, I don't care about these anymore. They're not fun anymore. They're just let's hire big name actors for commercials and make these scripts and maybe directed by Spielberg or James Cameron or something. It's just not fun anymore. It's not interesting, and it's just. I mean, I didn't care. I didn't watch the commercials during last year's big game at all. I just watched the game itself, and it was probably the second best big game I've seen in my life. The best one was back in the '08 big game, and we had New England versus New York, and you know, New England had a perfect season and they blew it. They all had to do was win one more game, and they blew it. So they blew it in the big game, and then the headliner for the music performance was Tom Petty. You can't beat that. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, man, you'll never see that again. Anyways, besides the point. Um, yeah, enough about the big game. I'm already sick and tired of because obviously I kind of biffed up and said the S word by mistake, and I gotta do work now. After the stream, I have to do work tomorrow and cut that out somehow. I'll probably just put some kind of bleep noise or something in there. Anyways, whatever. It's no big deal. There'll probably be some editing going on with that. I mean, it'll be on here for a while. But other than that, it's already the stream's already been a disaster with the whole not being able to edit anything. But let's just get back into it. How about that? But anyways, one more thing though, I believe that it's going to be a really low scoring game. It's not going to be something phenomenal or anything like that because I think defense is going to be the key factor, and the first team to score any points is probably going to win the game. So we're going to say obviously Philadelphia. All right, moving on to other stuff. I think it's a little here about myself, and my apprentices, and we're just going to talk about our names for a bit. I talked about my names in the last two videos ago. If you watched that, explaining who I am and how my name origins and so forth. I was chatting with Jedi Master uh, Jedi Master Celtic, and I was talking about my name origin. Basically, my name is Syrathus. It is SY apostrophe RATHUSS, and it's the story about my name is that I am known as the Cyclone's Wrath. So that's how it came up with the name. Um, for the character I am right now, is my name is Syrathus. That's how I go. I am the Cyclone Wrath because of my lightsaber skills are so fast and so you know have a lot of do a lot of collateral damage that when people see my battles, it is basically the wrath of the cyclone. So my speed, and it's just like a whirlwind of destruction wherever I go. Um, and my origin story is basically I was born on Korriban, moved to Drummond Cost when I was a youngling, and then was my parents were betrayed by the Empire, and they fled to Dantooine, which was a farming community, and they joined the farming community for years. And I was discovered by the Jedi there. They took me to Tython to be trained until I was like in my teens, when I was a headstrong apprentice and got myself cut up pretty bad. and defeated by a Sith Lord who stole my golden lightsaber and took it away from me. And then I was reconstructed by another Sith Lord because they saw potential in me and they knew how to tap into my anger. And then after that, defeated the Sith Lord who created me and defeated my own master, obviously, to get my golden lightsaber back. So that's the origins of my story and my name. Now, my first apprentice was Never Mai. That is Nevarmai, which is as clever as it sounds. Is basically I am Raven backwards. Um, Now, Raven is obviously a member of the Teen Titans. When I watched that a lot growing up in the 2000s, the animated series, not the Teen Titans Go, just the old Cartoon Network Teen Titans, and that show meant a lot to me. And obviously, of all the characters in the show, I kind of like Raven the most because, well, being a moody teen or 20-year-old or whatever it was at the time, it was more interesting to watch somebody that character to relate to. Everybody has their own favorites on TV shows, and mine was Raven. So I just kind of threw that together one day, and that's been the name that she's been using since we got her, or since she joined my ranks. And then Maka List is just basically the word cataclysm only rearranged. I know, really original, right? Um, and I liked it like that. I was like, well, I was really originally the channel was just going to be myself and Maka Liss being my apprentice, and I'm like, well, let's just do some variety. Let's have the female perspective on here. Let's put a woman in here. Let's put Never Mai on here, and that's how we got this back and forth thing. And then I was like, well, Maka Liss can be the assassin, and Never Mai can be the enforcer slash sorceress or warrior or whatever it is that fill that role. So coming up when we play World of Warcraft in that stream, she's going to be not a necromancer. God, I wish there was necromancers in World of Warcraft. She's going to be a warlock, which is, spell damage and dark powers and so forth. An undead warlock. And we're going to play on the Horde side. I really need to update that game and download the latest or buy the latest expansion. Other than that, yeah, that's basically the story of them. And Nevermind is obviously uh, a acclaimed student slash almost doctorate level of intelligence. She does research throughout the galaxy, studying ancient Sith artifacts, going from planet to planet, looking for ruins and texts and lore from previous Sith lords that have long since passed. I mean, obviously, she studied all the tombs on Korriban, um, and all other planets throughout the known Sith Empire. And Makalis is basically my assassin. If anybody, tries to threaten my rule or my power base, he is sent to deliver a message stealthily, hardly gets caught. Um, yes, he's been caught before, but it happens. Not every assassination attempt is perfect, but I ain't gonna fault him. He was been punished justly before, so that's good water. But yeah. So Makalis is more based off of a uh, Darth Maul kind of way with the dual blade lightsaber, and because Maul was a pretty good Sith Lord in Clone Wars, but kind of okay in Rebels. But of all the Sith Lords, he rarely defeated practically anybody. Really, he was kind of just intimidatingly smart, but not very strong enough or not very skilled enough. I mean, he's killed innocent people before, but you know, he's only well, I guess he killed Qui Gon Jinn, but besides that, who else? um, but yeah, that's the story of myself, Makalis, and Never Mai. Um, we are going to be on this channel for quite some time. I'm going to be doing this until I can't do it anymore, or until something else comes along to replace it. But I honestly doubt I could see me going for another 5 or 10 years. Being in my early 40s, which is crazy to believe, but I still do this stuff because I've been playing video games for as long as I can remember, practically. But anyways, that's it's fun. I mean, Jedi Master Celtic had quite a lot of origin stories made up for all his characters, and they were a little bit more elaborate. But I didn't really want to get into all the details of my character origins or where I found them. I just kind of been winging it half the time, and some stuff just pops in my head. Other things are not. The idea back in when I was younger was the golden lightsaber, which was basically a lightsaber that, unlike other lightsabers, the crystal would adapt to the color of how the person's aura was or how their feeling in the force was, and it could shift from all colors of the spectrum, from red to purple to blue to green to yellow to orange. And if you were in true balance with the force, it would turn to white. Unfortunately, though, in my hands, it only turns orange. It doesn't really turn red or purple. So the spectrum goes, if you're really in tune to the dark side and the force, it would be purple. But if you're just full of hatred, it would be red. If you're kind of dark personality, but not really committed, you would turn it orange. It would be yellow if you are close to balance on either side. Um, but not quite. It would turn green if you're really in tune to the force, and it would turn blue if you were 100% with the light side of the force. I know it sounds weird and everything, but that's just how the color scheme worked in my head, how the lightsaber plays out. It is, but you know, to me, it works and makes sense in my head canon. Now, granted, I know that in reality, the kyber crystals just basically are whatever it is that the wielder is. But I kind of made an idea that this golden lightsaber can be picked up by anybody, and it would know in their heart where they're at in terms of the force as well as their aura and how far along they are in their path. So if I ever got insanely angry or raging, it would turn red or purple. So that's the idea behind the golden lightsaber. I've had that idea since I can remember, maybe 2008, 2007. So I've had that in my head for quite a while now. Just to put it out in the open like that, pretty cool. But yeah, that's me and my team in a nutshell. So, to onward to like the next topic we're going to talk about is we're going to move over to the chatting with the screen button, which is going to just move our pictures over to the right hand side and then bring up the web page. And we're going to talk about the Revenge of the Sith, which I watched Thursday, which is a day ago, and just to kind of rewatch it because I mean I didn't really actively watch it. I would passively watch these movies. The last time I actually watched it was in the theaters back in what 2005. So it had been a while since I've actually watched this movie, and when you learn lore of the characters and you know understand where Lucas was trying to go with it, and then you watch the Clone Wars, you read some of the books, and it's just like there's way more going on, and it was kind of an emotional journey watching this movie for the first time in a long time with all this knowledge and information in your head trying to understand what's going on with the series. So, anyways, we're gonna, you know, this movie came back out in 2005, so this is a 17-year-old movie. Now, 17 years ago, I was in my early 20s, 23 to be precise. Um, yeah, 23, I would say. Anyways, so um, this movie is uh, way more interesting. I believe it starts, if I can remember it off the top of my head, how it starts out. Oh yeah, so Anakin and Obi-Wan head off to rescue um, Senator Palpatine, or not Senator, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine from General Grievous as well as Count Dooku. They board the ship after a crazy, fight scene, and they obviously the infamous line, "This is where the fun begins." And like inside, some shenanigans happen. They finally end up fighting Dooku. Dooku takes out Obi-Wan, and then Anakin just, beats Dooku by slicing off his hands. And then obviously there's the famous "do it" line. And Anakin kills Count Dooku. Another infamous line is basically, he will suffer the same fate as we will by Anakin, which is true because Obi-Wan gets killed in the Death Star. Palpatine gets killed in the Death Star, and Darth Vader dies on the Death Star. So they do have the same fate. They all die on the Death Star. Um, and after that, they encounter Grievous. Grievous escapes. The ship crashes in the Coruscant. There's a whole Anakin tells, which is weird if you watch the season 7 of the Clone Wars. uh, Anakin already knows that Padme's pregnant, but they make it a big reveal on the movie. I know this is different because that episode was created years afterwards, but in terms of continuity, I'm pretty sure it's like, well, it's not a surprise. He knows that already. You can't really, unless I mean, you can't really hide that. She didn't really hide it in that hollow transmission. So, you watch that last season of Clone Wars, you kind of know what's already happening. So he can't be that oblivious to the whole fact that she's pregnant. Um, but you know, they find out they're having kids. Eventually, he starts having nightmares that she's gonna die. Um, Anakin tries to figure out how to save her, which always believed that it was actually Emperor Palpatine or Senator Palpatine was manipulating the Force to show these visions of the future, so Anakin could see them and see the outcome that he wanted to see. Because you know, Palpatine has always been manipulating Anakin from the moment he laid eyes on him to the moment when he became a Jedi. And since Attack of the Clones, he's always been saying stuff and putting stuff in Anakin's ear. Basically, every time Anakin starts acting irrational, is because he just got done talking with Senator Palpatine. Now, continuing on in the story, at some point, Anakin wants to become a member of the Jedi Council because Palpatine says, "Hey, maybe we should do that and be my, eyes and ears on the Council." And starts the whole thing where Mace Windu's like, "You're on the Council, but we don't give you the rank of Master," which kind of, you know, is a snub to Anakin's quest for power, which was being fueled by Palpatine telling him, "You're strongest. You should have all the power in the world," and he's like, you know, getting all these ideas and been put in his head, and he's being tempted by Palpatine the whole time. Nobody notices this. At some point, they find where General Grievous is at. Obi-Wan gets sent to deal with it, um, and after they fight each other in the infamous line, "Hello there, General Kenobi," and then the whole lightsaber duel happens, and Grievous escapes again. Obi-Wan chases him down. Meanwhile, Anakin finds out that um, Palpatine is the Sith Lord because Palpatine tells him the story of Darth Pelagius, and that he gets that. Oh no, brain fart. Anyways, and then he tells him that he knows about how to save Padme and about the dark side, about his master, that he should know all aspects of the Force. Anakin tells Mace Windu. Mace Windu grabs a couple Jedi with Kit Fisto, and they go try to arrest him. Before then, Mace Windu says, "Stay at the temple," and obviously Anakin wants to help, so he goes because he wants to save him. There's a whole battle for Anakin, who basically does the opposite, where he was given the option to kill Count Dooku, or not kill Count Dooku, but he did it anyway. But when it comes to Palpatine, it's like, no, we need to save him because he might know what I need to know. And obviously that did work out in the long run, which is, pretty much a tragedy in itself. Anakin's life was Palpatine basically destroyed everything Anakin loved dear and just manipulated him to just be, Vader in a nutshell. Obviously, chopping off Mace Windu's hand, and then getting him killed. Eventually, getting Padme inexplicably killed by making her feel bad about herself, losing the will to live, which was, I mean, it's possible you can lose the will to live. Your heart just gives out, and you just get this mental, psychological thing, and you can literally die of just like, I just can't live anymore. I mean, my whole world has been destroyed, and in this present condition that I'm in right now, there's just no way I can survive. But it's Anakin eventually goes to Mustafar after being declared Darth Vader, And Palpatine is obviously scarred. Palpatine wants to reform the Galactic Republic into the first intergalactic empire, and uh, so Anakin goes to Mustafar. He kills all the remaining separatists, and then uh, Obi-Wan finds out about Order 66 after he was almost killed by the clones on whatever planet that was, Utapau, I think it was, and he escapes in Grievous's ship. He goes back to find intercept Yoda. Yoda and them go to the Jedi Temple. Uh, um, Kenobi was wondering, well, they're trying to change the message to tell people to leave the temple, not to come to it. And then this Order 66 happens, which is basically the pivotal point in the Star Wars universe. I forgot, I glossed over that. Order 66 happens basically after um, Mace Windu gets killed and Darth Vader goes to the temple, which is weird because wouldn't the clone troopers kill Vader? I mean, they're programmed to kill Jedi. He's still technically a Jedi, even though he's changed side to Sith, but they're ordered to kill all Jedi. I mean, unless something's like, oh yeah, and by the way, don't kill my new apprentice Anakin. Oh, okay. They never mentioned that. And because I know this is the comic books, but in the comic books, when Vader first appears, all the clone troopers just start shooting at him, like, anywhere he went to, the clone troopers would just start shooting at him because they knew he could have been a Jedi even though he wasn't. And yeah, it's crazy, but anyways, the Order 66 happens, which basically Anakin just destroys the temple, and there's a lot of stuff in uh going on in other videos that you can see this how this is happening. You know, um, it's just crazy. But 3 years, huh? All right, but I guess it says 3 years in the Clone Wars. I guess I didn't notice that before. I thought it was a lot longer, but I guess I was wrong. But anyways, so then there's a lot of crazy stuff with the Clone Wars, and the thing about it, uh, when you watch the last season of the actual Clone Wars, where Ahsoka is at this point, but she's on Mandalore when all this is going down, or leaving Mandalore when all this is going down, and then she's got her own story arc. But you don't back in 2005 there was no Ahsoka Tano, there was no other characters. It was just basically what you saw in episode 2 and what you saw in episode 3. All this other stuff didn't exist until they decided to make movies out of it. And it added to the lore. It added more to the story. How they got Ahsoka out of the situation, but she didn't. Obviously she escaped and was still alive. But it adds more depth to the characters, and obviously, the whole Padme on Mustafar scene where Anakin's going to choke her, and Obi-Wan's there, and then I do what I must to protect the Republic, and basically all the stuff that Anakin want, his power, his control to save Padme, stuff like that, and then the whole breaking my heart thing was actually kind of an emotional roller coaster at the end. If you really think about all these characters and what they've been through, and what they're going through, and on a personal level, and then Anakin just losing it because he can't control anything right now. His life is spiraling out of control. Ever since he killed Mace Windu, he's just been in a downward spiral of bad decisions and hurting innocent people, or not innocent people, but just doing everything to save the one he loves, which is the whole movie can be summed up in with the road to hell was paved with good intentions, and that's what I get basically off this movie. There's a lot of stuff that that Anakin did was just to try to save the one he loves, or save the ones he loves, but it ends up getting them all killed or destroyed, and just falling into despair. Like, the way he just all of a sudden turns like, oh my god, I killed Mace Windu. Well, there's no going back now. I just murdered a Jedi. Might as well just give it into the dark side. Might as well just do that. Oh, jeez. But yeah, and then obviously the most epic fight scene, which I have on my T-shirt right here. I can't see it or not. There it is. Oh, that was appropriate shirt to wear today. But it's a heck of a story. it's gone up in reviews recently in the past few years, uh, because it's a popular movie. I mean, grant back then, it was lauded because of Hayden Christensen's acting and everything, but you look at it and go, I don't. It was the way he was supposed to be, really. He was a Jedi. They don't have emotions. Up there's General Grievous's famous scene right there, and a lot of good photos actually of this movie. Should look at them. But obviously, your boy Hayden Christensen is still up there. Oh, see how he's doing. He's only a year older than me. Birthday's coming up pretty soon too. But I guess I don't know if he's in other movies or anything like that. Well, he does other movies, but just not really anything I could think of really. Jumper, I guess. I mean, it was in that. Yeah. What else? Let's see. And then I was looking at Ian McDiarmid, what he was been up to. He's only 5 years older than my dad, but um, other things he did because I've never seen another show, and I was like rolling down. And all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, man! It's been a long time since I've seen Sleepy Hollow, but there it is. I haven't seen Sleepy Hollow in years, but he's in that movie too now, and you know, but that's one of the other movies. I guess I never really seen a lot of his work besides Star Wars. I really don't know anything else that I have watched. I never watched Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of work, I guess, but hey, whatever. You got your Ian McGregor, who gets top billing in this movie, and then you got Natalie Portman, obviously, Samuel Jackson, Jimmy Smits, Frank Oz, Anthony Daniels, Christopher Lee, who doesn't get much in these movies, which is really sad. He barely gets an hour of screen time. Da, da, da. A lot of people, a lot of people. Obviously, Tamara Morrison. He's marrying Ahmad Best. I mean, it's a great movie. It's the stronger of the three trilogies. In my opinion, it is one of the stronger of the three trilogies. Of the three movies in this trilogy, it is the strongest one out of all three of them because there's such an emotional impact going on. You already know what's going to happen. You just want to see it in camera. And back when I was in college, we were speculating on how this movie would play out, and I said, "Oh, uh, Anakin is going to fight uh, Mace Windu and defeat him, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be there." He's like, "What the heck was that about?" And then start fighting him, and then defeat Anakin, and he become Vader. And this was back in 2000 and this was coming back in about 2001, 2002 when I was thinking about this stuff, or even before Attack of the Clones came out. So it's crazy, but it was kind of true. I mean, Anakin did kill Mace Windu indirectly without the unlimited power, right? Right. Sorry, cat's signed to take a visit outside today. Let's go look through there's a lot of photos. Wow, okay. 571 photos? Gee. I wonder if I can legally show any of these. Probably not. Oh man, they got a lot of photographs on here. And this is what the Inquisitors are supposed to look like right here. This is back in 2005. Not the new ones that they have right now, but that's the way they were supposed to look like, and they never fixed that for Kenobi, which is weird. They could do it back in 2005, but they couldn't do it in 2020. That's the same race for the Inquisitors. But no, it yep, there it is. Infamous Order 66 one. But it's a heck of a movie. I watched it just recently. And if you're a true Star Wars fan, you've seen that movie. And it makes more it makes it a little bit more impactful as a movie, um, to understand Darth Vader as a character being a little bit more high, as being a little bit more tragic instead of just some dark lord of the Sith. Giving a story to Anakin and how he got killed, technically killed to become a Jedi, to become Darth Vader. You know, I hate you. Actually, seeing him get his suit put on and put back together is how he becomes Vader. And the whole Frankenstein's monster, and the only thing that made it really dumb was that no. It's so terrible that they brought it back in the re-release of Return of the Jedi when he throws um Palpatine down the what down the shaft before he throws him. He's like, no, when Luke's getting zapped. It's like, oh, jeez, no, just no, 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 no. Let's not do that ever again. Um, as General Grievous doing General Grievous stuff. I mean, that would have been intimidating, right? Guys coming at you with four lightsabers and they're all swinging every which way but loose, and you know, chopping up everything. And that lightsaber looks, the one in his this hand right here looks definitely like Anakin's lightsaber, and this looks like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, but I can't make out the two on the right. Um, but yeah, just crazy. No, stop playing the trailer. I don't care about Ant Man. I Cat's acting up, be all over the place. But yeah, go see that movie. I think it's one of the stronger of the three. And it's definitely more emotional weight than the other movies, but just to see Palpatine just manipulate the whole situation of all this coming to a head. But you have to almost watch the Clone Wars to its entirety just to kind of understand what's going on. The gradual changes into the Vader, the decisions he makes, the temptation to the dark side, um, just slowly seeping away and everything, and then just um, I am the Senate, and so it's treason. Then there's a lot of memes in there, and it kind of the one that killed me the most, that made me kind of hate myself in a sense, but I still couldn't help myself, is the infamous youngling slaughter section of the movie. It's like I can't watch that scene without laughing anymore because they make so many memes about it. It's lost its emotional impact to me, which is really sad because it's really really brutal scene. I mean, you don't see it, but you know what happens. That he literally just chopped them all to bits. Killed these kids. Master Skywalker, what should we do? And it's just like, it's like, oh crap. It just, the reason why he's crying a lot too, Anakin, is because he's not become. This is from another streamer. He's not becoming the Jedi he wanted to be. He's become something different, something worse. Things in his world are falling apart, and it's just taking emotional toll on him. And that's why he starts crying a lot, because he's in pain, a lot of pain, because all the things he's doing is just it it doesn't feel right to him, but he doesn't want to sacrifice this. He wants to sacrifice this stuff in order to save Padme, and in the end, he didn't do it. Now, who's to say? What if he didn't, turn to the dark side? Would he have um, stayed in the light and not have become you know, a Sith Lord? What if he stayed on this light side? Would he have stayed? Would he have saved Padme that way? I honestly don't think Padme would have died in childbirth had he not, gone to the dark side. But all these temptations, and Yoda even said in the beginning of the movie that looking into the future can cause these problems. And then Anakin's like, "Oh, I will do everything in my power not to let this happen," and it happens anyways. It's like, well, some people, when they learn their fates, do everything in their power to think they avoid that fate, but they end up with the fate that they get anyways. So Yeah, and obviously the continuity error of Leia not knowing her mother's eyes, but I think that she wasn't really meaning Padme. I really, really think she was meaning uh, sorry, my cat's decided to play around with the camera down below. All right. So, anyways, talking about. Anyways, I think she was talking about. I think she was talking about her adopted mom's eyes. I was kind of actually thinking that they would straight up murder her on the TV show Obi-Wan just to kind of get that whole I don't remember my mom's eyes because she died thing. But they didn't do that, so I was kind of disappointed in that aspect. Just to keep it with up with the new with I think it was Return of the Jedi. They start talking about that. The next movie I'll be watching for my stream chat review, which will be 2 weeks from now, is going to be Solo, a Han or a Solo a Star Wars Solo. Is it Solo? A Han Solo movie. Solo, a Star Wars story. Yeah, that's gonna be the next one. Because that's technically next in order in terms of canonical order. um, or in timeline order. That's the next movie that would happen. Then Rogue One, A New Hope, uh, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then obviously Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. And then we'll just do like that for the next few streams. Um, just kind of keep up with the appearance of the show. Chatting about random stuff about Star Wars and watching these TV shows. And these movies were made a long time ago, considering it's just been over 17 years now since he's been out of the theater. So you know, up, but yeah, going on IMDb and looking at all the stuff. By the way, none of these people on here sponsor my channel. I'm just their ads and so forth are just on here really. So IMDb does not sponsor this channel. I just use that website because it's basically a website for decent information. Anyways, cat's playing around with the camera down there. It's crazy. Um, but you know, as far as character, he's very tragic. Even though back in the '90s, before these movies came out, Vader was just basically a straight up murder man. He was intimidating. He killed whoever he felt like and was evil, even though this was a time when we obviously didn't have Phantom Menace fight scenes or anything like that. These are mostly people just doing play fighting, but um, still, you know, he was voted the most evil character in media back in the day until Phantom Menace comes out and you realize it's just some boy turned man who basically um, lost everything he thought he could save because he wanted more power. And there's a lot of dialogue in the movie from characters warning everybody about this happening, and yet Anakin refuses to believe that he can't do it because most of his life has basically been around him trying to prove himself any way possible. Be the strongest, best Jedi in the world, or um, you know, being the best pilot. He'll do anything just to prove that he can. And everybody has a breaking point, and this has obviously happened. And he lost everything to the dark side of the Force, which is tragic. But he couldn't save Padme. And the sad part is that the Jedi could have saved Padme, really, if he'd only listened. Because the Jedi know how to heal if trained properly. If Anakin would have talked to the right people, or not have hidden the shadows, or maybe put a sheath around his lightsaber, none of this would have happened. Um, you know, it Padme was kind of the focal point of the series. Really, it wasn't her fault, but you know, they're both in need, whether it be carnal or basically love of each other, which I don't think it was really mostly love. Really, the way they treat each other, Anakin just doesn't want to say most of the stuff. He wants to hide almost everything around Padme about things towards the middle of the film, and it gets her suspicious and everything like that. And you know, do what he calls is one thing, but when somebody asks you something, you don't want to tell the truth and or don't want to mention anything. People start getting this schism, and I know it's a joke to make fun of Padme for falling for Anakin when he killed sand people is one thing, but when he killed younglings, well, that's the line that got crossed. It, I don't know. Um, it it's crazy to think that way, but yeah, that's what happened. She fell in love with him, even though he basically murdered a whole village of people. But the moment he crossed the line with the younglings, well, that's too much. That is just too much. Sorry, traveling down a road I can't follow. But it's an emotional movie when you know the characters, and even though you know the outcome, and obviously I've got the high ground. Um, which he wanted to prove himself that he could in that scene. Like I said before, he wanted to prove that he could defeat Obi-Wan Kenobi and do the maneuver that Obi-Wan Kenobi did on Darth Maul. From what I gather, that's exactly what Anakin was practicing, is trying to leap over Obi-Wan, just, get him on the jump and do the cut maneuver. But Obi-Wan saw it coming and basically chopped him up. And which is weird because it wasn't like it was a surprise. Maul was kind of surprised at Obi-Wan leaping over him. He didn't think that was possible, but he did it anyways. Whereas Anakin was just kind of setting himself up for getting smacked down. And Grant, yes, he could have leaped to the side and did it, but he was just focused with his hatred and rage. And even though he had blue eyes during the whole fight scene, until he gets his limbs cut off, that's the moment Anakin Skywalker died and Darth Vader was actually officially born right there in that scene. Um, and you look back at it, even when he's getting a suit put on, his eyes aren't really, Sith eyes. They're still his normal eye color, all burned and everything, but, you know, destined to be trapped in that armor for the remainder of his 20 some odd years of being alive. Um, which is, the whole armor has a whole story on it too. That it's basically the lowest of the low when it comes to uh, movement. He's slower now. He's lost a good chunk of his connection with the Force. He used to be really strong in the Force, Anakin, and he really started losing limbs. It was theorized that even with his arm missing, he was still like 20% more powerful than the Force than the Emperor was. But the moment he lost his arms and legs, that's when he became like 80%, 60% weaker than the Emperor. And there's a whole thing about his suit is resistant to everything except electricity. Uh, it can you can he can jump into lava and not get burned. It's immune to pretty much cold, but and heats, but and radiation. But the only thing it can't repel against is lightning, and that was specifically because the Emperor could shock him into place if ever need to be. Um, but it kept him awake at night. It it beeped a lot, made weird noises. Obviously, it altered his voice. He can't use it to breathe outside of the air. Um, it had cool, not cool, but had his eyes had special cameras installed so he could see different spectrums of light or radiation. Um, it, 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 it was advanced suit, but it was also very slow. He couldn't raise his arms above his head, so he couldn't do this with a lightsaber. So he had to like do this, so he couldn't bring full weight down on it. Um, yeah, he was always in a state of anger. His skin itched because of the necrosis. Um, you know, could he have made himself a better suit? Yeah, he probably could have if he wanted to, but he just never did that. Um, Probably because it's an iconic suit, really. look weird if he decided to tinker with it. But you know, the fact that they whipped that thing up and the time that they had was crazy. But I know it's all supposed to happen and so forth. But Obi-Wan goes to live in Tatooine with Luke, and Leia gets sent to Alderaan to live with the Organas at the end of the movie. Also, yeah, there's a big cool fight scene with Yoda and Palpatine, Uncle Big Papa Pops, Palps. He goes to fight Yoda, and it's a weird fight in that there's scenes where I'm like, how'd that happen? How did Palpatine get up higher and start throwing Senate chairs in? Which, by the way, if you ever want to watch a funny after story about it, watch the Robot Chicken Star Wars part about what the hell is an aluminum falcon. Um, that's probably hilarious. So I threw a whole Senate at him. True story. Uh, but it looks like Palpatine obviously could beat Yoda in a fight somewhat, even though it wasn't really much of a fair fight. But it's a Sith; we don't play fair. Um, yeah, there's the Yoda escapes to Dagobah. Um, Obi-Wan splits up the kids. They know where they're at. Um, uh, they save the Jedi from coming back. They got Ahsoka running around, Cal Kestis, that Wookiee Jedi that was introduced in the Bad Batch. What's his name? Yeah, bloke with the makeup on him. He's introduced in the Clone Wars, and he's in a book called Dark Disciple, but I can't remember. But anyways, he survives. There's a few other ones that survived the Order 66 ordeal. Um, oh, and the guy from Rebels there too. He survives. You see that in the Bad Batch, episode 1, season 1. I can't remember his name either because I really didn't care for the Bad Batch. But yeah, that's pretty much the short and long of this the movie. Uh, Obi-Wan obviously lives in the desert for a while until the show Obi-Wan actually happens, which is 10 years after the fact, which is a long time to be dealing with some PT PTDS or PTSD, ugh, post traumatic stress disorder. Uh, being racked with guilt, not doing anything for 10 years. I don't know. I don't suffer from that, but and I know it's a lot different because you can't really be out in public because you're probably the most famous Jedi out there besides Anakin that is known throughout the galaxy. But um, I don't know what you can do for help in that situation, but he disconnected himself from the Force in a sense. Never tried to, seek peace in the Force until that TV show, which is a long time to deal with that stuff. The fact that he didn't, take his own life is strong, but also it's a very difficult time in his life. And, the fact that he maintained a little bit of hope that things would get better in these really dark times in the galaxy, pretty impressive. I honestly don't know about the other Jedi during Order 66 that just gave up and took the took the quick way out, I guess. But there are other stories that you don't get to see in media that are written or comic books that are not considered canon anymore. It had some dark stories about the Jedi in Order 66, but it's the pivotal. This movie is basically the pivotal moment in the Star Wars universe that leads up to obviously A New Hope and Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. And that's where most of the Star Wars shows tend to go to or replay. Obviously, the Bad Batches, the years or the months and years after Order 66. It's good to see how things are going on with other parts of the galaxy during that. Because that time is kind of, you know, there's stuff going on, but not during the birth of the Empire. You know, uh, Bad Batch kind of shows that. You got Obi-Wan, which is halfway through, and you got Rebels, which is 5 years before A New Hope. Um, but there's other areas that are just kind of forgotten about after Order 66. The comic books had some things going on with Vader. Whether or not they're canon or not, I can't say anymore. But he goes and gets his lightsaber, uh, tunes it to the dark side, etc. Um, you know, the Jedi are considered, a threat to the Republic. And they are all executed or found, or whatever. You have uh, Fallen Order and Survivor, which is coming out in a few months, explaining what other people were doing at the time, how to stop Vader from getting all the Force users in the galaxy, and but that's the moment in Star Wars, and it's kind of like a tension that you can feel building up if you watch the Clone Wars. Things just start getting more and more intense. You can feel this coming up and going to happen. So it's definitely this movie here pretty much starts it all for the Sith and the 20-year reign of an empire that eventually gets defeated by the one of the few remaining Jedi, um, which in the Star Wars universe, obviously back then, back in the 80s, early 80s, you know, there was another Jedi. Lucas wasn't really thinking about it. He was only concerned about Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia, and or Leia Organa Skywalker. And there wasn't any Ahsokas. There was a mention of the Clone Wars in A New Hope, but other than that, most of the, and Anakin Skywalker, but most of the stuff we really didn't know about until pretty much the 2000s. After this movie came out, more stuff came out, and obviously now Disney's trying to bring more of that stuff into light with more shows. We're gonna have the Mandalorian here in a couple weeks. Um, Continuing on with the Bad Batch for a few more, which I hear is doing great. I've only seen up to the Wookiee Jedi episode, but there's a lot more going on. It's gonna be interesting to see what else is coming up in the future. Obviously, the Ahsoka show is gonna be worthwhile seeing sometime this year, and other projects that are coming out later in the future for Star Wars. So that's pretty much it. That's the short and long of my whole episode, really. If you liked any of this, please follow me on social media. I will upload an edited version of this probably sometime tomorrow, maybe later, on my YouTube channel, which is as Sith Lord Plays This on YouTube. Follow me on the social media apps, like and subscribe on my Twitch channel. Looking forward to hearing people's thoughts and comments on this, or at least sending any information out about what they felt about these movies, or how they felt about Star Wars as a whole, or Revenge of the Sith. Like I said, I'll have the Philadelphia team going to upset the Kansas City team this weekend. I'm not personally going to watch it. You guys can go watch it and have a good time. But thanks all for watching, all you Darths, Lords, Acolytes, and Apprentices. Until next time, may the Force serve you well.